What's going on, YouTube? MROD Fishing here. We just had an amazing tournament here in North Carolina. It's our second tournament of the year. Bass Angling Southern Style is an amazing club that I fish with. If you're ever looking for a club in the North Carolina area, Jacksonville in particular, check them out. Bass Angling Southern Style. Great group of guys, super competitive, but also extremely humble group. Really good times fishing with these guys. So, Northeast Cape Fear River. It's a huge river. It extends into the inland part pretty for quite a few miles. Lots of turns, lots of winds. I mean, it is a fast-moving river. There's also a couple of other rivers that flow into it. I think it's like maybe the Black River and the regular Cape Fear River also flow into it. But we were on the Northeast Cape Fear side. So, I had practiced for this tournament about 2 weeks prior to the tournament. And the reason why I did that was I knew the weather was going to be pretty similar 2 weeks prior to the tournament that it would be on actual tournament day. Just forecasting the weather, checking it out, looking at what the cloud cover would be, the temperatures, and the barometric pressure for that time. So I went and found two really good spots on this river. One of them is pretty much what you would call a community hole. Everyone goes there. It's super close to the boat ramp. But there's always fish there, and if they haven't been fished yet, you can go in there, park your boat, bam, slam a few fish out, and then you can spend the rest of your day looking for big ones. But what I ended up doing was, like I said, I fished for 2 days, and I found two spots. I caught about 2 good fish off of each spot. And then I said, peace, I'm out. Save it for the tournament. Those weren't the only 2 spots that I had on the river, but they were the 2 spots that I knew I could get to fairly quickly without burning a whole bunch of time or boat gas. So I checked it out, got to the boat ramp that morning, talking with the guys, really saw that the current really wasn't moving super fast, but it was moving. The water wasn't super high, but it was high enough. Definitely not normal pool for the river, not normal current, but it was moving. So I knew going into it that I was going to focus on throwing a smaller bait, super slender profile. And the bait that comes to mind every time I'm trying to fish this way, especially in a river, dirty, muddy, or dark water, I use a stick bait. I mean, it's just it comes down the water column extremely fast, or as slow as you want it. To tell you the truth, you fish it weighted, you can fish it weightless. You can do a lot of different things with this bait. I like the darker colors for this time of year because the water is probably muddy. So I went with a peanut butter and jelly color. It's a bait made by Combatant Baits. It's a war stick. It's a peanut butter and jelly color. It's a great bait. I love it. I use it pretty much in all the tidal rivers that I fish. It's just a really good color to use. This is actually the bait right here. And you can see that it's got like a June bug on top and a pumpkin seed on the bottom with some red flake and some blue flake in it. It's really good bait. I make these myself. I really love fishing stuff that I make myself because it feels extremely satisfying when you catch a fish on it. I'm telling you, it's a great feeling. Does it always work? Here, most of the time. Does it always work? No. It's something that I'm super comfortable with. I have a lot of confidence in. The other color I was throwing is green pumpkin and blue flake, which is another color that I make in this stick bait. I really like this. This is about the time of year where crawfish are starting to come out of their super dark blues and green pumpkins. They're starting to get that blue color molting out. And now they're going to start turning into like a green pumpkin and orange color. They may even hit that molting white phase. But I really like that color just in case they're eating crawfish. And a lot of times what I do is I'll catch one, I'll put it in the live well. It doesn't matter how big or small it is as long as it's within the limit. And I will wait for it to cough whatever it's eaten up. And I will take a look at that and see, oh man, dude, this is something I should be trying to mimic. Pretty sure a lot of you guys know that, but for your beginners out there, you just may not know that. But check it out, try it out, feel around their gut. If it's hard, soft, rounded edges, I mean, you could tell if they're eating fish, crawfish, or whatnot. But those are the two baits, profiles, and colors that I was using, and I was throwing them on a Big Bites, Big Bite Baits. This is a 3/16 ounce shaky head. Super reasonable, super cheap. The hook on this thing is super sticky. I mean, I'm talking sticky. Really great thing. You just screw it. You screw the bait right onto it. Let it fly. Really awesome around here, especially this time of year. Fish are starting to become super finicky. They want to eat. They want to feed up. We're super early pre-spawn. But at the same time, they're like, dude, I don't want to come off of where I'm sitting and come and bust something out. But if they see that shaky head, that bait, when it's on here, it stands straight up. I mean, I'm talking like straight up on here. Just like that. It stands straight up. So once it hits the bottom, it sticks out pretty well. You can get away with throwing even big worms on that thing if you want to. But I stuck with the smaller profile stick bait. Really great thing. I'm going to go ahead and freaking show you the exact spot where I was actually fishing on the Northeast Cape Fear. I normally don't do that just because I do fish those rivers for tournaments. But you know what? Hey, they're not always there. And if they are there, well, then I hope you catch them if you go out and find it. Pretty main river spot. It's technically main river, but I really focused because I knew the current was going to be rolling. I didn't think it was going to be, super bad or whatnot. But I know when the current rolls on a place, especially a tidal river, and if the tide's going out, I know that I normally try and tuck myself in to a main part of the river, not a creek, a main part of the river that has a couple of creek channels nearby, but also has an extreme sharp turn in the curve of the river. Even a couple of different curves in the river before you get to the spot you want to fish. Because fish tend to hold in those really sharp turns. And normally you would think, oh, well, those sharp turns, that water's going to be coming through there even faster with the tide and the current and all that and the water that's shedding off for the rain. But what's great about that is it is moving fast. And all you do is you move inside of those sharp curves and you find the current break. And when I say current break, I'm not talking about a lay down log. I'm talking the current break is the inside portion of that curve. Whatever little point extends out into the curve, that's the actual biggest point break on the whole thing besides a tree, a lay down, a bush, or anything. The biggest thing that stops the water flow there is the point itself. So a lot of times them fish will hug up right underneath or right beside that point, and they will be waiting to ambush fish. It keeps them out of the current, but it also gives them access to current. Because, I mean, just like, riding on a subway or something like that, boom, you stop at one spot, you get a bite to eat, boom, you jump into the current, and they go down the river to the next spot to eat again. I mean, kind of like what we do, going to town, So, that's what I focused on. Kind of cool deal. I took a buddy of mine out for the very first time. He's never been, he's probably been bass fishing maybe once or twice. But he's a super awesome dude, beginner kind of guy. I said, hey, if we get to this spot and nobody's on it, we will probably start pulling some good fish out. And lo and behold, we get to this spot and we start slaying fish. It was really great. I am so upset. I did not take my GoPro, did not get any video footage at all whatsoever. Didn't even get a picture. I was so amped up about this tournament. But I am going to show you where it's at. And the reason kind of why I found how to really dissect this spot was because of my backseater. My backseat boater literally was casting out, and he was fishing super slow like I had mentioned and stuff. But I had seen him in the back, and he was like setting the hook, setting the hook, setting the hook. And I'm like, dude, you're getting bit. What's up, man? I mean, set that hook, you know. But he got bit so many times, and he couldn't set the hook. I was like, dude, we are in the right spot. This is perfect. We just need to slow down and slow down. And then when you think you're going slow down some more. And that's what we end up doing. And we both, I had 5 fish for the day, and he had 3 fish for the day. We both weighed in fish. But I'm telling you, we probably caught about maybe 15 or 20 fish in this one spot. And then we moved to a couple of other spots that were very similar, and we caught fish in those areas also. So moving on, I'm about to show you what it looked like, where I was casting, and why I was casting there.
So in this part of the video, guys, this is a representation of the Northeast Cape Fear. This river is a extremely windy river. It has a ton of creeks that kind of wind in and out, in and out. This river is known to be a pretty fast river, but fishing this river this time, it wasn't as fast as I really anticipated it, considering we had some rainfall quite a few weeks before this and during the tournament week. But it was still what I would like to call good current, a good fishable current. It was moving really fast, but not too fast to where you couldn't fish it. But in saying that, if you kind of look towards about the middle third of the map, going down from the top to the bottom, I really wanted to focus this tournament on fishing areas that had large amount of steep curves. And when I'm talking about steep curves, I'm talking about the areas that have super sharp turns. And the reason why I like those super sharp turns is because it kind of gives the water a backstop to slow down a little bit in. Those edges get cut out a little bit more defined with the current. Also, you'll see in the next illustration, I was really trying to pay attention to curves that had creek mouths on them, and they didn't have to be like giant creeks or feeder creeks. I mean, they were like small little creeks or small little channels that were coming off the main river channel. And you'll see that right about in this illustration right here. And so when you look at this illustration, if you notice, the current is definitely coming from the top of the image to the bottom of the image, just so you know that. I really couldn't illustrate that too well. But you notice that on the top right, up in the boat of the top right section, there's a little feeder creek, and then on the bottom left, there's another little creek. Now, these creeks are key to fishing pre-spawn this time of year in a river such as this, because those fish are kind of holding in these deep curves in the current, and they're popping in and out of the current, and they're staging up and feeding in these areas. But eventually, here in the next month or two, those fish are going to come out of this pattern, and they're going to move into those little creeks, and they're going to start spawning. They're going to start chasing fish to the back of those creeks, which is awesome. So here in the next month or two, the fish that I caught in this area outside on these points and current breaks and little trough areas are going to move into the back of these little creeks. And if you can get into the back of these little creeks in the next couple months, you are going to absolutely slay some great fish. So let's talk about the illustration. If you can see the red lines in the illustration, that is where I'm casting at and where I'm casting towards. Those are current break areas in about 2 feet of water. Now, there was these probably about maybe 50 yards worth of this 2-foot area in front of me, and it was like a 2-foot flat, and then it dropped down dramatically into about 10 to 17 feet in certain areas. And I looked at my graph and I was like, man, these fish are stacked up in here. I don't know what kind of fish they are, but I'm going to try and figure this out. And this was during practice, of course. And during practice, I threw maybe 3 casts, boom, caught 2 really nice fish, and I was like, boom, I'm done. I'm going to save this for the tournament time. As long as nobody's fishing these areas, or even if they are, I'm going to come back to them later or whatnot. kind of trying to build a strategy, but that's exactly how I was fishing these areas. I was basically fishing a shaky head all day long with either a war stick in a peanut butter and jelly color, or a green pumpkin and June bug bottom-sided trickworm. And I was fishing it on a 3/16 ounce head, just like what I showed you earlier in the video. And I basically cast it as far up to the bank as I possibly could, and I was not catching anything on the bank itself. Even though I did see bait running through the banks and stuff. I was waiting for the current to pull it all the way out, super slow. But when they hit this thing, I'm telling you, they crushed it. It was awesome. I even had a backseat boater, or a backseat boater for this tournament. And it was awesome guy. He's not really super experienced in bass fishing tournaments and stuff like that. But he came out, and I said, man, if we can find spots like this, we are going to absolutely put some fish in the boat. We could possibly win. Boom. Here we go. We won. Or I won, and he caught 3 really nice fish. It was a good time, great time. Really an opportune time to fish this way. I was super, super excited to bring out the win on this. But that's basically how it happened, guys. This is an actual screenshot of the location. I'm not one of those kind of guys that is like, oh, hey, you can't fish my spots and this and that. Hey, if you can find this spot on a map, go out there, find it, and catch some fish. Well, that's my video for the day, guys. Thanks a lot for tuning in on this winning tips video. If you like what you saw, hit the subscribe button, leave me a comment, a like, and if you don't like what you saw, hey, keep scrolling and find something you do like. Well, until next time, I'll see you on the river. MROD Fishing is out.